Nobody saw it coming. 3 legends, 3 eras, 1 stage. Caitlin Clark, the rookie rewriting women's basketball in real time. Michael Jordan, the global icon whose shadow still looms over the sport decades after retirement. Larry Bird, the pride of Indiana, the mastermind who once defined basketball intelligence and legacy. When they appeared side by side, it wasn't just a press conference. It was an earthquake. Fans gasped as flashbulbs lit up the room, knowing history was unfolding before their eyes. This wasn't a gimmick. It was a turning point, a collision of greatness that demanded the world's attention. The air was charged with electricity, every heartbeat synchronized with the tension in the room. Reporters scrambled for answers, but nobody had them. Why would these 3 titans stand shoulder to shoulder now, at this moment? Jordan, who rarely steps back into the spotlight unless it means billions. Bird, who carefully chooses when to attach his name to a cause. And Clark, who in just 1 year transformed herself from rookie to revolutionary. The stakes felt larger than basketball. Something seismic was brewing, and it wasn't going to stay confined to one league. Jordan's presence alone shifted the narrative. His empire, worth over $3 billion, wasn't just about sneakers. It was about control, culture, dominance. When Michael Jordan speaks, entire industries listen. His Jordan brand had already changed men's basketball forever. But why here? Why now? The only answer fans could cling to was that something monumental was about to happen. Something so earth-shattering that even the most powerful figure in basketball felt compelled to align himself with Caitlin Clark's meteoric rise. Larry Bird's presence struck a different chord. He wasn't just a legend. He was Indiana incarnate. 3 MVPs, 3 championships. Countless wars fought on hardwood courts etched into folklore. But Bird's influence didn't end when his playing days did. He carried the Pacers into legitimacy, carved out a role as a statesman of the game, and became Indiana's basketball conscience. To see him standing next to Clark wasn't just symbolic, it was generational. Indiana's golden son reaching across decades to join hands with Indiana's golden daughter, forging a bond that would outlast a moment and echo through time. And then there was Caitlin Clark herself, the rookie who wasn't just playing the game, she was reinventing it. In 1 season, she turned fever ticket sales into gold, skyrocketing by over 400%. She dragged television ratings into uncharted territories, forcing networks to bow to women's basketball. She signed the Nike deal that shattered precedent, becoming the first WNBA rookie with a signature shoe. She was no longer just a player. She was an economy, a cultural phenomenon. And now, she stood flanked by 2 titans, proof that her impact wasn't just historic, it was revolutionary. When Michael Jordan finally spoke, the room went silent. This wasn't the Jordan of the past, trading stories of championships. This was Jordan, the empire builder, the visionary who saw markets where others saw limitations. He spoke of legacy, not just his own, but what happens when greatness across eras collides. He wasn't here to relive old glory. He was here to chart a new path. His words cut through the silence like a knife, planting a seed of realization. This wasn't an endorsement. This was a restructuring of the game itself. Jordan didn't sugarcoat it. He spoke about the responsibility of those who come before to open doors for those redefining the game. His tone wasn't nostalgic. It was prophetic. Fans realized this was about more than the WNBA. This was about breaking barriers, about forcing corporations, leagues, and executives to acknowledge women's basketball not as a side act, but as the main stage. Jordan's voice carried the weight of inevitability. And when he looked at Caitlin Clark, it was as if he saw his own reflection in the next generation's revolutionary. Larry Bird followed, and his words carried the pulse of Indiana itself. He spoke not as a detached legend, but as someone whose identity was fused with the state's basketball culture. Every driveway hoop, every high school gym, every dream of Indiana's kids lived in his voice. Bird spoke of safeguarding Indiana's basketball soul, a culture too precious to leave behind. His return to the spotlight wasn't just about mentoring Clark. It was about preserving the lifeblood of basketball's heartland. He made it clear, Indiana wasn't just a place on the map. It was the epicenter of something greater. Bird's tone was resolute, almost spiritual. His resignation from the Pacers had left a void. But standing beside Clark, that void seemed filled. His voice carried pride, determination, and conviction. Bird wasn't here for nostalgia either. He was here to ensure that Indiana basketball, through Clark, would rise into something unshakable. He wasn't stepping back into management. He was stepping into history, into a partnership that promised to reshape not just a franchise, but the trajectory of women's basketball itself. Fans realized they were witnessing a transfer legacy so profound it bordered on destiny. Then came Caitlin Clark's turn. She didn't need theatrics. Her very existence was already historic, but her words were powerful in their simplicity. She didn't speak like a rookie, but like a revolutionary. She spoke of responsibility, not just to her team or the league, but to the movement itself. She carried the weight of expectations, not with fear, but with determination. She thanked those who paved the way, but made it clear she wasn't just here to play. She was here to build something bigger than herself, something permanent, something that would outlive her playing days. Her voice was steady, her message unflinching. Clark knew she wasn't just a star. She was the face of a cultural shift. She spoke of rewriting rules, reshaping narratives, and demanding respect. It wasn't about contracts or accolades. It was about the future of the game. Every sentence carried the fire of a woman who knew she stood at the intersection of sport, culture, and business. Her endorsements, Nike, Gatorade, Wilson, proved her commercial might. But this partnership, she insisted, wasn't about endorsements. It was about revolution. And in that moment, Clark's words redefined the stakes. The idea of revolution became tangible. Fusing Jordan's financial clout, Bird's basketball wisdom, and Clark's unstoppable momentum created a juggernaut unlike anything the sport had seen. Analysts immediately speculated. This wasn't just about helping Clark grow as a player. It was about tearing down old walls and erecting new empires. Together, they had the power to topple the old guard, challenge outdated systems, and elevate women's basketball into a stratosphere once thought unreachable. Fans began to understand this wasn't just a collaboration. It was the beginning of a storm no league could ignore. For Jordan, this wasn't sentiment. It was empire building. His Jordan brand dominated sneakers, but he saw evolution happening. Women's basketball wasn't niche anymore. Thanks to Clark, it was exploding into mainstream consciousness. For Bird, this was about anchoring Indiana as basketball's holy ground. He wasn't going to let Indiana fade into irrelevance. And for Clark, it was about seizing power. By standing with Jordan and Bird, she wasn't waiting for the WNBA or corporations to validate her. She was forcing them to recognize that women's basketball was no longer secondary. It was primary. Fans quickly realized the implications were staggering. Jordan's endorsement alone could skyrocket the value of any venture. Add Clark's social media army and Bird's Indiana credibility, and suddenly the possibilities felt limitless. Analysts whispered of training facilities spanning continents, tech companies redefining athletic performance, and global youth programs that could change how basketball was taught. But another possibility loomed darker. Could this trio be challenging the WNBA itself? Was Clark positioning herself to rewrite the very structure of professional women's basketball, frustrated with pay gaps and restrictive contracts? The question became impossible to ignore. Speculation ignited like wildfire. Could this alliance launch a new training empire, blending Jordan's competitive philosophy, Bird's strategy, and Clark's modern flair? Could they pioneer virtual reality training systems, apps, or tech ventures that would revolutionize development worldwide? Or would they go further, creating a rival league, free from financial shackles that had suffocated women's basketball for decades? Every rumor added fuel to the fire, and fans clung to each possibility with breathless anticipation. The official announcement loomed, but it was clear, whatever came next, the basketball world would never be the same. Beneath the excitement lay something darker, a symbolic war. Clark's rookie contract paid her a fraction of the millions she generated for the league. It was laughable, insulting even. Jordan knew this story. He had fought his own battles against undervaluation decades earlier. Bird knew Indiana basketball better than anyone. Their presence beside Clark was more than symbolic. It was a warning shot. If the WNBA didn't adapt, if it didn't evolve, it risked losing not just its brightest star, but the credibility of aligning with basketball's greatest names. The power dynamic had shifted overnight. The Indiana connection gave the story a poetic sharpness. Bird, the state's golden son. Clark, the state's golden daughter. Together, they embodied Indiana's basketball destiny. Bird had once carried Indiana's pride into national relevance. Now, Clark was doing the same, and their alignment felt almost ordained. With Jordan's global reach amplifying them, Indiana became the epicenter of a cultural revolution. The Fever, once overlooked, suddenly threatened to become the most powerful franchise in women's sports. It wasn't just symbolism, it was destiny unfolding before the world's eyes. The cameras flashed furiously as the trio outlined their vision. This wasn't just about endorsements or mentorship, it was about building infrastructure, training programs, community initiatives, the blueprint for a future where women's basketball wasn't treated as secondary. Indiana was positioned to benefit most, but the ripple effect promised to change the entire landscape. And in the middle of it all stood Caitlin Clark, no longer just a rookie sensation, but a power broker. With Jordan and Bird beside her, she wasn't requesting respect. She was demanding it, and the world had no choice but to listen. Then came the twist that sent the basketball world into chaos. Rumors swirled. Larry Bird wasn't just here as a symbolic partner. He was being courted as a potential coach. At first, the idea seemed laughable. Bird coaching in the WNBA, but the whispers grew louder, more persistent. Could Caitlin Clark, barely a rookie, wield enough influence to orchestrate one of the most shocking coaching shifts in sport history? Fans couldn't believe it, but the possibility felt terrifyingly real. Suddenly, nothing seemed impossible anymore, and the implications grew heavier by the minute. A coaching move like that would shatter precedent. Bird had never coached women before, but his brilliance was undeniable. For Clark, it would be the ultimate alignment of past and present. Indiana's legend guiding Indiana's future. For the Fever, it could mean dynasty contention overnight. And for the WNBA, it would force the world's eyes on them in ways never imagined. Bird wasn't just a coach. He was a brand, a symbol, a presence that demanded attention. If this move happened, the ripple effect would redefine women's basketball forever, elevating it into global consciousness. But whispers of Clark's motivations ran deeper than ambition. Behind the scenes, pressure was mounting. The crushing weight of being the face of an entire league was breaking her down. Promises made to her behind closed doors hadn't been kept. Her rookie contract undervalued her. Leadership failed to match her seismic impact. Some whispered she had even considered leaving altogether, taking her talents overseas, where contracts would reflect her true worth. Others insisted she was planning ventures outside the league entirely. Whatever the truth, Clark had reached a breaking point, and this alliance was her answer. Clark's influence had already rewritten the WNBA's financial script. Television ratings soared past 1 million viewers. Merchandise sales exploded. Sponsorship deals poured in. Yet her paycheck reflected none of it. While corporations cashed in, Clark was shackled to a rookie deal that paid pennies compared to her value. For a star carrying an entire league on her back, it wasn't just unfair, it was betrayal. And aligning with Jordan and Bird wasn't just a collaboration, it was a declaration of war against a system that underestimated her. She wasn't asking for change, she was forcing it. Fans realized the inevitability. Jordan, Bird, and Clark weren't gathering for nostalgia. They were gathering for revolution. Training facilities, tech companies, endorsement juggernauts, rival leagues, everything was suddenly possible. The WNBA, dependent on Clark's stardom yet unable to pay her fairly, looked vulnerable. With Jordan's billions and Bird's legitimacy, Clark finally had allies powerful enough to force systemic change. The league wasn't just facing a superstar anymore. It was staring down a coalition of the greatest names in basketball history, and the tremors of that realization echoed across every level of the sport. As the press conference reached its climax, fans leaned forward, breathless. Caitlin Clark stepped up to the microphone one final time. The room was silent. Every word she spoke carried the weight of history. She revealed an unprecedented partnership, a reshaping of Indiana Fever's future, and the shocking possibility of Bird's deeper involvement. Her tone was deliberate, her words unforgettable. This wasn't just basketball, it was revolution. And as the cameras flashed, the message was clear. The game wasn't just changing, it had already changed, and the consequences of this alliance would reverberate forever.